back to recording lessons. We're on Chapter 5, Lesson 5, Comparing and Ordering Rational Numbers. Please turn to page 387. So, we learned about rational numbers in the last lesson. Let's recap. A rational number is any number that can be expressed as A over B, where B cannot equal 0. So now let's look at this real-world link. We have a number of insects in the table. When we look at the fractions, we notice that the denominators are different. In order to determine which insect is the largest, we have to think about it in terms of a whole or make the denominators the same. In this case, let's just look at it. When we look at the cricket, we notice that it's 1 over 1, which means it's 4 over 4, or a whole, which is larger than any partial fraction. So we can say that the cricket is the largest of the insects. Now it says shade each fraction strip to represent the lengths of a fire ant and a housefly. So the fire ant is 1/3, so we'll shade that on the bottom. And then the housefly is 1/4. So by comparison of the fractions, we know that the fire ant is a little bit bigger than the housefly. Now we need to determine which insects are longer than 0.5 inches. First, we need to convert 0.5 or 5/10 to a fraction. We know that's 1/2. So as we go through the picture, let's check the ones that are bigger than 1/2. The June bug, the cricket, not the fire ant, the firefly, the Japanese beetle is exactly 1/2, but this says longer, so we can't write that one down, and the mosquito. So we have 4 insects that are longer than 1/2 inch. Now we would like to order the fractions from shortest to longest. So again, least to greatest. The housefly is 1/4. The June beetle is 3/4. And the fire ant is 1/3. So pictorially, looking back at the diagram, is 1/3 bigger or smaller than 1/4? You guessed it. 1/4 is smaller than 1/3, which is smaller than 3/4. Please turn the page. Just as we saw with whole numbers, or what we call integers, we can express partial numbers or rational numbers on a number line. Again, the negatives are on the left, the positives are on the right. We need to determine which of these statements is true. Is it less than, greater than, or equal to? Well, we know that all negative numbers are smaller than all positive numbers. It doesn't matter what the value is. We know that all negatives will be less than all positives. Notice the little less than signs on my number line. The next one we have in number 2 is negative 1.40 compared to negative 1.25. The first thing that you must understand about negative numbers is as the number value increases, it's smaller in size. So negative 1 million is smaller than negative 2. It is further to the left, further away from 0 on the number line. So let's look at the number line and try to locate these. Again, this is heading in the 0 direction. So we know 0 is up and this is negative infinity. So looking at this, we know that negative 1.25 is closer to 0 than negative 1.40. When rational numbers are written as fractions, we need to convert them to the same denominator. We have negative 3/8 and negative 5/16. By multiplying 8 times 2, negative 3/8 becomes negative 6/16, and we're comparing that to negative 5/16. So again, look at the number line. Which one is closer to 0? You guessed it, negative 5/16 is larger than negative 6/16. So negative 3/8 is less than negative 5/16. Get it? Got it? Go. Remember, pause the video. When you're done with these, turn the video back on. All right, check your answers. Did you get what I got? A, 3.1 is greater than negative 3.7. C, 9/16 is less than 12/16. Next column. B, negative 4.5 is less than negative 4.49. Let's talk about that particular problem. It looks to me like 5 is less than 49, but you can't look at it that way. You have to equalize the digits after a decimal. So I rewrote negative 4.5 as negative 4.50. Now I can make a comparison. And then the last one, I need a common denominator. Negative 7/10 is greater than negative 8/10. Turn the page. Now that we're comparing and ordering rational numbers, first we looked at rational numbers that were represented as decimals. And then we looked at rational numbers that are represented as fractions. Now we're going to mix the two. So in problem number 4, we have negative 0.51, or negative 0 and 51 hundredths compared to negative 8/15. In order to compare these things, we have to convert one to the other. It doesn't matter which you do, but they need to look the same. So in this case, we're going to convert the fraction to a decimal. You're like, oh, Ms. Morris, do I have to do a fraction problem that involves division? Yes, you must do a fraction problem involving division. So we have 15 down denominator, don't go into den. So 15 goes on the outside, very good. And 8 goes on the inside. 15 does not go into 8, so we write a 0. 15, however, goes into 80 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25, carry your 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 75. We subtract and we get a 5. So now we know that we're looking at 15 going into 50. 15 goes into 50 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15, carry my 1. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. Oh, the 5 showed up again. That must mean the 3 repeats. So let's come over here and write 0, negative 0.53, and the 3 repeats, not the 5, just the 3. So now we have 2 decimals. Can we make a comparison? Is 51 closer to 0 or is 53 closer to 0? You guessed it, 51 is closer to 0, so negative 0.51 is greater than negative 0.53. All right, in problem number 5, we have to order the set. Negative 2.46, negative 2, and 22 over 25, negative 2, and 1/10. When I look at those, I immediately think of 100. Why? Because 25 and 10 go into 100. So for me, that would probably be the easiest way to convert these. So if I multiply 22 times 4, I get 88. So 88 over 100, negative 2. The negative 2's are the same, so that's not going to affect my answer. I'm going to write my decimal as a fraction 2. That's 48 hundredths, so I'm putting it over 100. And then my 10, easy, just add a 0. Yay! That's negative 2 and 10 100ths. So again, I'm trying to see which number is closer to 0 since they're all negative. In this case, they want us to order it from least to greatest. So which one is further away from 0? Which one is further away will be the least. So I'm looking for the highest numerator. The highest numerator is 88. Would you agree? Great. But I have to put it back in its original form. The original form for negative 2 and 88 100ths is negative 2 and 22 over 25. The next one that's closer in is 46. So we have negative 2 and 46 hundredths. But notice that I had to write that back in its decimal form. Whatever form it starts out in is the form it must end in. And then the last one, which is closest to 0, is negative 2 and 1/10. This is the order they appear. Get it? Got it? Go. Remember to pause the video. Did you get what I got? In E, negative 3 and 5/8 is equal to negative 3.625. Why? Remember I told you that 1/8 is half of a half of a half. A half is 0.5. A fourth is 0.25. Therefore, an eighth is 0.125. All I have to do is multiply that by 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry my 2. 10, 2. Carry my 1. 6. Look, it's the same thing. So again, remember, you can always take a fraction in its root form, which is any fraction with a numerator of 1, and find out what it is, and then multiply the numerator by that to get the decimal answer. Again, in this case, we have 3/7, and the only way to do that is to do division. There's no handy-dandy secret for that. So that's a 4, that's a 28, that's a 2, that's a 0, that's a 2, that's a 14, that's a 6, that's a 0, that's 8, which is 56. All right, now I don't need to go beyond that. I know that this number is going to go on for a while, probably is irrational, is a irrational number, which means it's not going to form a pattern, but I know that the other answer that I'm comparing it to has 3 decimal places, so I don't need to go beyond 3 decimal places. So 0.428 is greater than 0.413. And again, I know that's not how you say it. I'm saying the numbers so that you can recognize the numbers. I would say 428 thousandths, 413 thousandths. Now I need to order the set below. Did your order match my order? Please turn the page. Okay, again, life is never about just math. It's about word problems. In this case, we got Mr. Plum's science class. Did anybody think a clue? I immediately thought a clue. So I'm going to convert this guy to a decimal because I know a fourth is 0.25. That guy's a negative, okay? So I'm going to check my negatives so I know that they're on the opposite side of the number line. I'm going to equalize. So that guy's going to get a 0, that guy's going to get a 0. And I'm going to convert the last one, again, to a decimal. So, when ordering them, the further away from 0, we are going from least to greatest. Negative 2.2, negative 1 and 7/10. 1.7 and 3 and 1/4. Now do the guided practice. Alright, now that you've done the guided practice, please check your answers. Remember again, in order to compare rational numbers, you either have to convert them to fractions or to decimals. It's much harder to just look at it in their current form and make a decision. So again, pick which one is easier for you. Check the answers. See you tomorrow. How did you like the video, class?